Welcome to a different kind of archery podcast where we're all about the real stories, practical tips and the shared passion for this timeless sport. Join us for insightful conversations with archers, experts and enthusiasts from all walks of life. From hitting the golds to the pursuit of personal growth through archery, we've got it all. So get ready to knock your arrow and take aim at a world of archery knowledge. This is Unstrung Archery. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Unstrung Archery. I'm Neil Hickman of Wigan and Oral Archers. I'm joined by our good friend Nye.
Hi, here from Morecambe Bay Archers, currently down in Bury.
And this evening we are joined by a lovely young lady who's a very good friend of mine who originally started off in our club but has progressed from there and become quite the excellent little archer. So I'd like to introduce you all to Zara Longlands.
Hey, I'll take the young. That's it's a pleasure to talk to you both.
Well, thank you very much for coming this evening. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to take a moment to introduce our first ever sponsor, a company who needs no introduction in the archery community, as we've all at some point either worn or seen their shooting shirts. Lionheart supply shooting shirts from club level to pro level teams, all the way up to international teams such as the Iceland team, the Dutch Invictus Games teams, and last year were chosen by World Archery Iceland to supply the official shirts for their national judges, which I have to say look absolutely fantastic. I am slightly jealous. A little closer to home too, on the international front, and they also make the Scottish and Welsh team shirts as well. I want to make a point of saying that while we all know and love the shirts that Lionheart create, they don't usually advertise the fact that they also have quite the selection of other apparel, such as compression tops, lined hoodies for both summer and winter, waterproof and standard jackets, sweatshirts, and their new line of archery bucket hats, which you may have all seen. They have also recently produced a shooting robe for the archery twins of Gloucester, who are making a name for themselves in the sport. These are waterproof and fleece lined and seem to be starting to make a bit of a trend for collecting arrows in inclement weather. So absolutely a must-have with the weather that we've got in the UK. If you want any more information, head on over to www.lionheart.uk, and that's heart spelt with H-A-R-T. Let's get started with the episode. So we'll just jump straight into it, Zara. So obviously, as I mentioned, you started off with us in our club. But can you tell our listeners how you first discovered archery and what inspired you to pick up a bow in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of an accident, really. I actually started archery kind of just after COVID, so I was looking around for things, and we were still in the final lockdown at the time, which was that January to April period. And I was I'd moved back to this country from Korea, and I moved back in the lockdowns. So that period of time was the first time where things were starting to lift, and you could kind of build a life for yourself, really. So I was just looking for a sports club to join, and I happened to see a beginner's course advertised, which was 6 weeks on a Friday evening, couple of hours. And I thought, well, I'd never really thought about it before, or even really considered that it was a sport that people did. So yeah, booked myself on it, started. I remember one of my first questions was, what do you wear to archery? Because the instructions were pretty basic, which was basically just turn up. So yeah, I was a little bit nervous, but I kept going. And I remember thinking, I was looking around at everybody else hitting these targets, which seemed like they were miles away at the time, and thinking, I can't hit the middle. Like, I can't. They're all over the place, these arrows. And then I think it was at about week 4, something sort of seemed to click in terms of what they were saying, and all of a sudden, I mean, we're talking about 10 yards, so I could have reached out and touched it easier than I could have shot an arrow at it, to be fair. Yeah, something clicked and they started going, and then I started to get a sense of satisfaction and enjoying it. And at the end of the course, then you basically had the option to join the club. But at that stage, you've got to go out and buy all your kit, which is a pretty big expense, really. But I was committed. I was committed to giving it a go, and yeah, it took off from there. Really, got the kit and went to every possible session that I could go to, and never really stopped. And then, as you say, when I left Wigan's club, really it was the main reason was I joined a club that had 24/7 access, so it just allowed me to shoot more. And that's kind of sometimes the downside of a smaller club is that you're limited. So if you have plans or work or whatever and you can't make that one session that they have in the week, then it very much limits your shooting. So yeah, that was just about 2 years ago, and I honestly never thought that my entire life would be taken over by archery, but that's just the way it's been, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, unfortunately, yeah, I've no life.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a generally good thing. I think I was in a very similar situation to yourself, and I think my course possibly was the one before you at Wigan and Oral. I think I joined probably about 12 weeks before you, I think, if I remember correctly. But mine was a similar story in terms of that, we had the lockdown and then we needed to get out of the house kind of thing. And just archery was there for that reason. So yeah, I can sympathise with you on that one. So when you were a novice archer, and I don't know whether you consider yourself beyond a novice archer. I mean, I personally would, because I've seen your score sheets. But what were some of your initial experiences like when you first started practicing? I mean, beyond the beginner's course, obviously.
I mean, I was lucky really because there were a couple of good coaches within the club who really took an active interest in people who had just finished the beginner's course. So I had a lot of help with tuning the bow and the arrows and giving me tips on technique and kind of how to improve. But the main thing that I enjoyed, because I'm quite a competitive person, was this 252s thing where you can basically push through your distances, but you've got a goal, you've got something to aim for, and you're actually teaching yourself consistency at those distances. So like I loved that element, and I got a lot of enjoyment. I was able to push through the first few distances really quickly, and then I got stuck at 50. I think there's a distance for everybody where you just get stuck and you think, oh God, like how am I ever going to get through this? And then different things come in, like you've got to increase your poundage and stuff like that. But I think for me it was I suppose it's that balance between making sure that you've got a good technique as well as being competitive. And I think at the time, I would say initially, I definitely I don't even know what the word is, but my technique suffered so that I could push through and, reach the distances that I wanted to reach. And in hindsight, if I was to go back and do it again, I would slow down because I'd rather have a better technique and get it right, because I've had to unlearn a lot of things, which is harder.
Yeah, take that time in the development stage. Make sure your form's correct. Then you can make progress quicker later.
Yeah, for sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And let me just say, Zara is being quite modest there. Being one of the committee members of the club, I know fully well that she took and still holds the majority of the 252 records at the club.
Oh, nice.
Well, but it was a real buzz at the time, and it gave me a lot of enthusiasm to keep going. But I think because I had that element, it did push me. It kind of did push me to be like, oh my God, I want the next one, and I want to do more, rather than really make sure that technique was right. But yeah, I can't say I didn't enjoy taking some of those records, to be sure.
There is something satisfying about getting a record.
Yeah, it is, especially when you keep taking them.
Yeah.
It does. It kind of gives the club a competitive kind of rivalry, which is great. On the subject of 252, and I know I didn't have this down on the question list, but I've got to ask you. Obviously, you enjoyed going through the 252, but a lot of people find it quite mundane when it gets to a certain point. The program itself is, I think, is great for introducing people. But if you could change anything about the 252 program, what would it be?
I think people get stuck on the idea that you have to achieve 252 scores at one distance before you can then move on to the next one. And what I would say is, and on separate days, I think if you were shooting, let's say you're starting at 20 yards, you get your first 252, I would say, you know, push back and have a practice at 30, you know, and then come back to 20 like on your next session to get your next 252. But because you've pushed out to the next distance, you'll find it much easier. And I've seen a lot of people get frustrated at certain distances. As I say, mine was 50, where you can't get it. And I think if I'd have pushed out and had a go at 60, I'd have found 50 much easier at that point. So whether it's just how it's kind of explained to people or how it's written, I'm not sure. But I don't know whether people get stuck in the idea that they have to do the whole program. I also think there's a bit of a lack of knowledge around some of the shorter rounds that you can shoot, where you can start getting classifications, and those rounds come in at really short distances, 30, 20. And I think if people had more awareness of those, if you mixed it up a little bit and you did some round and some 252s, then it'd be much more enjoyable.
Yeah, because saying that, you could have the shorter national rounds where it's 4 dozen at, let's say, what was a junior national, now the national 40. You could shoot 4 dozen at 40 yards, 2 dozen at 30. In there, you'd have a go at your first 3 dozen at 40 yards. So you could, in theory, get it as part of something bigger as well.
Yeah, so one of the things I've done, as Zara's probably aware, that obviously I became a session coach quite recently, and one of the things I've been doing with beginners, we have kind of like a 12-week aftercare system going on in the club at the minute now. That's basically you get an assigned coach for the 12 weeks. What I've been doing with people is, rather than saying, right, go do your 252s and just leaving them to it, I've been getting them through the 20 yards, because it's not really a round you can get a 20-yard 252 in, but pushing them to the 30s, and then, rather than doing 252, then just doing the round that distance, so they get to do the 30-20, and obviously the first 36 arrows would then qualify for a 252 anyway, so you just take those first 36 arrows, and if they manage to gain the 252 off those on the 2 separate occasions, they can obviously then get their 252 badge, and it's already starting to push them through the classifications and understanding how classifications work.
Yeah, good idea, though.
I like it. I think I'll be taking that for myself. I'll be using that for myself as well.
Great. Everybody else should do it. Embrace it. It's going to get more. See, one of the problems I had when I first started is Zara was the one that explained the classification system to me, and that was nearly 12 months after I'd started. So it just goes to show that, you know, people don't understand the classifications unless it's explained to them. It was only when we had our AGM and Zara got like 3 classification badges, I'm like, how did you get them?
You know, somebody was good enough to explain it to me, but that information just seemed to be, it kind of wasn't out there for everybody, and that I was just lucky, really, and keen. So I kind of asked all the questions, but I think I see a lot of shy people coming in as well. And if you're not confident enough to ask for help, or you don't want to bother other people, then you're going to miss out on that information, which is a shame. I mean, I was just looking then at the rounds, like if you look at the under 21 or under 18s, there are rounds that go down to 10 yards, 20 yards. So whilst you might not, if you're a senior, whilst they might not actually count towards your classification, it doesn't mean that you can't be doing a round that gives you a score to aim for.
Yeah, because
and break some records in the club as well.
Yeah, set the records, because people might not go for them. So
yeah, exactly.
Pick them for yourself and get that experience. Like you say, the experience of shooting the round. It's sort of, you know, that when you come to say shooting your first national round, for argument's sake, I picked that one because it's one of my favourites to shoot. It means you know already. Yeah, you can shoot the number of arrows needed
Yeah.
to finish the round.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Neil.
Like, one quick question was, when you're first starting out, it can be difficult to getting into competitions or pushing yourself through the distances can be quite a difficult process. So, are there any of these difficulties that you found, Zara, that you'd like to share with people, and then how you actually went about overcoming them as well?
Yeah, I think I would say one of the biggest things is that you have no idea where to find competition information from. Originally, I was told about the Lancashire website, Lancashire Archery website, quite late on, but then I didn't really put together that there were other counties with websites, or that Sport 80 had all of them on. So I felt like I was missing quite a lot of information. I could see other people, more experienced people, booking competitions all around the country, and I was like, how do you know where these things are? Like, I don't understand. So there was definitely nobody telling me where you could find competitions. When I went to my first competition, it was actually a Lancashire one, and the round was a York and a Hereford, which I wasn't capable of doing at the time, but they actually put a national on in the afternoon, because at that point everybody else had reached the same distances, and it was a really good way to get either novice archers to a competition, or maybe people that couldn't hit those distances yet. I mean, they've brought in the masters category now, but a couple of years ago that wasn't necessarily a thing. So that's how I first got into it. And again, I only got into it because somebody else was going, and they sent me the link, and they said, why don't you try this? I was absolutely terrified. I remember standing on the line and my legs were like jelly, and I thought, oh my God, how do people do this? Again, and I had no idea what the rules were. I was more nervous about how does it work, all these different beeps and whistles, and how do you know when to go forward and when not to go forward, and all that. And I've talked to a few people since who haven't yet done it, and when you're trying to explain that much information, it does sound overwhelming, and you're trying to say it's a lot more straightforward when you get there, but I remember what that was like, and it definitely didn't feel straightforward. I'm glad I did the first one. I definitely didn't shoot in the way that I knew I could. I was just far too nervous. Didn't really know what I was doing. So I think that there has to be an element of being prepared for what you're about to go into. So I spent really the first year just going to competitions with people that I knew. I didn't do any senior rounds that first year because I just wasn't comfortable at any of those further distances. So I did any kind of novice comp that was coming up. But there weren't a huge amount of them around. Like, I really struggled to find any novice comps, which was a bit of a shame, really, because I definitely would have, I wanted to go, but just a bit of a struggle to find them. And then this year, I've been away every single weekend, and again at the beginning of the season, I was nervous. I was nervous about doing it, but now it feels like I've lived my life in competitions. So you sort of have to push yourself through the nerves, I would say, but I definitely think there's a lack of information about where you find that, how you know about them, and then also how it works.
Yeah, the etiquette that's involved.
Yeah.
With a quote unquote etiquette of how do you do it, and I suppose it's that. Would I be right in thinking it's sort of you don't want to quote unquote embarrass yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of your biggest fears is that you're going to be picking up your arrows from behind the target all the time. And it's only when you go and you realise that everybody misses, even the best ones could pick up the odd arrow, but you just have this assumption that you'll not be able to hit the target and you'll be the only one walking around picking up your arrows. So yeah, definitely a sense of embarrassment, I think. You could almost do with a video where it just shows like exactly how it works to the beeps or the whistles and
I just got
Yeah.
one quick story actually, of my own actually. So competing, I'm like competing on on a pretty regular basis. And it was last Asherton Novice shoot actually. The rest had gone, and so I was missing more. I was missing pretty much as I was hitting the target because just wasn't meant to be that day. So I was picking up probably half my arrows, and the only person who was actually bothered by it was me. Because so that it's natural that judge feeling of people I'll be embarrassed by it, people might judge me, etc. Honestly, more people are just there and they're more happy to they'll help you in any way they can as well. They won't. So if you won't have any, you won't need to worry so much about embarrassment because people will be supportive of you
that's
as
it.
well.
We've all been in that situation, so nobody's actually thinking,
Yeah.
"Oh God, look, they've missed again." What you're actually thinking is, "Where's the arrow gone? Let's get back." And you're trying to be encouraging.
Yeah, and I think to add to that as well, obviously myself being a judge, I kind of have a benefit to the club that I can provide there is actually running. We did it this year, just after the start of the outdoor season, where I actually put a competition on that was literally just a club competition, but the sole purpose of it was for me to go through the whole setup of a competition for not only the field party, so they understood what was expected of them by the judges and actually setting up the range and stuff, but how the archers would be approached by the judges, and we even had the chronotier timing system out and showed them how that works, kind of things. Now I know obviously a lot of clubs don't have access to that facility. We've only got a few judges in Lancashire. I think there's about 12 of us currently. Obviously we're spread out at various different clubs, so not everybody has that ability to do that. But I think you're right there, Zara, as well. I think having some sort of knowledge base of this kind of thing, even if it's sat on Archery GB or on the county website, it's just showing what to expect on the first of competition would be great for a lot of novice archers specifically. And I mean, even myself, I was way beyond novice, should we say age, novice experience level before I did my first competition. I wasn't considered a novice anymore because I'd already gone over the 2-year mark, but it was only because of judging that I knew what to expect. So it's definitely something that's not covered enough, and archers start at novice period of their archery career. Another point on that as well, when you were mentioning about not being able to find competitions, it might be a good idea if you have got one and you're a club, you're a committee member on a club. If you've got a tournament officer, just tell them to keep an eye out for competitions, and just, I don't know, whoever deals with whatever communication system you use as a club, just get your tournament officer to give people a nudge and say, this competition is coming up, they might be interested in that. We have members that do that in the club. But yeah, there's a reason why we have people with roles in clubs. So, utilise those people.
Tournament organisers put it out on social media and things like that it's being organised, that it's running. So, it might be on the websites, of course, but if you can send it out on social media, go directly to people, to the Facebook groups and things, and that might also be, that's another way to reach people as well.
Yeah, I know me and I help each other out. I know we're obviously different clubs, but we do help each other out a lot. And if more clubs could do that, then I think the actual archery community would benefit more by supporting each other's
and for
competitions.
The clubs, how often do you see clubs kind of putting something out there to say, low numbers, particularly at the moment at comps? So it's good to support other clubs. The more that clubs have low numbers, the less likely they are to try and put on a comp the next year, and then all of a sudden we start to see them disappear, which would be really, really sad.
Yeah, well, we obviously tried to run our 720 last year, and we had 3 people sign up for that. And obviously, we didn't run it again after that. We did obviously run it as a novice competition this year, which we still, again, it was quite a low attendance. We only had 20 archers on the line, which was great. It wasn't. It still went ahead, which was the main thing. But getting people to competitions is what's going to support competitions at the end of the day. So if the club wants to put a competition on, you're going to have to start supporting other clubs' competitions to get people interested in the first place.
And if you go to someone else's club, competition, you can take news of yours there as well and say, it was up in Keswick. I think it was Easter last year or so. Or maybe summer last year. We were saying, anyone else got any shoots on? Yeah, Morecambe Bay Archers, we've got this in September. Eagle Bowman of Penrith said, we've got this shoot in such a time, like that. So we'd all have. So yeah, if you go to other shoots, you get on with people. Obviously, you're on targets with different people. You can actually say, "Oh yeah, you're near us. Why don't you come to this shoot that we've got on?"
Yeah, I've seen that at a couple of competitions. People will print out their entry forms and they just go around as it, everybody's sat there. They're a target audience, so they just sit and go around and give out the entry forms. And whilst you might not be thinking about it at the time, I know more that I know that one club got a whole bunch of entries just off the back of doing that. So it definitely can work.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good medium method. Archery is very much a word of mouth sport anyway, so it helps to continue that when you're at competitions. And I think I do the same if I'm at any competition. Try not to do it when I'm judging, but when I'm not judging, I'm either supporting people or shooting myself. Then I try and push local comps.
I'll give you a line breaker if you come to me shoot.
Yeah. That is it's a 9, but it could be a 10. No, I'm joking. I don't do anything like that.
Yeah, I should put on the record, Neil is actually a respectable judge and wouldn't do such a thing.
No, I definitely would not. So anyway, let's move on to our next point. So obviously you have now attempted the national tour. You've been on one shoot for the national tour, but I just want to go back to a little bit before then and just ask what point you decided to transition from just local competitions to actually going for the big one for the national tour, and what motivated that decision.
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't intend to do any of the national tour this year because I just wanted to get myself comfortable with competitions and kind of keep the pressure off. But I wanted to submit my scores for the county team, not with kind of any sort of expectation that I would make the team, but I just wanted to kind of show some interest. And in order to submit your scores, you needed 3 720 scores. So I had quite a few 720s booked in, but as you know, this year the weather has been horrendous. So we had a couple of comps that we were at called off partway through due to like what I can only describe as a hurricane. And so I was basically just looking around for more 720s, and British Target Champs day 2 was a 720. Was it day? No, day 1 was a 720, and then the head-to-heads followed by 1440. So I was actually booked into a field shoot that weekend, which I did want to do. I enjoy field, but I really wanted to have a chance to improve my 720 scores. So that was the main motivation behind doing it. There didn't seem to be much else about, and I thought I'm just going to give it a go. I wasn't necessarily phased about the fact that it was a competition. I was just very aware of the caliber of people that would be there. And I remember driving. So when you come in, you can kind of see the field and the targets as you come in. And I got there on the Friday night to set my line tent up. And I have to say, seeing 70 bosses lined up was quite a daunting sight, having gone to local competitions where you may be seeing 20, maybe 30 at a push, but all of a sudden this looks like, well, this is a major competition. And the other thing was when I was putting my line tent up, and I was there with a friend who also hadn't done the national tour yet, so he was also, like me, slightly apprehensive about how it was all going to work. And there was more lines on the field than I'd seen before at a local comp. So obviously, usually you have your line tent line, you have your waiting line, and you have your shooting line. And I think there was two other lines, and I was like, "Well, what are I don't what are these for?" Um, yeah,
So normally, I think you'd be referring to the media line, and then you'd have the drop-off line at 3 meters in front of the shooting line as well.
yes, there was that line. There was also it left on.
Did they have the lanes out as well?
It did. It had lanes, but they had a tram line. So the week before had been the youth championships. So for the team head to head, you have a 1 meter line. So that was also there, and I hadn't seen it before. So I was a little bit confused about which line we actually shot on. Again, when it comes to it, you just follow everybody else. You can't really stand in the wrong place. But I do remember thinking, this is a lot of lines. But yeah, it was a great experience actually. In terms of the shooting, it was just like a normal shoot. I actually knew the people on my target, which was super helpful because I'd done all of the competitions throughout the season. And it was just a normal shoot. But what was amazing was being able to sit and watch some of the top athletes. So, when you're watching Penny Healy or Bryony or, Sarah Battles, it's just like watching a totally different class. So whilst you're competing, you're also getting like a very close show of what it should actually look like. So I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed the atmosphere. They had music playing, and I really enjoyed it actually. I have to say I was disappointed with my qualification score. But I think part of that was wind, part of it was nerves. Just the whole experience kind of does play a part. But yeah, and then I actually won my first head-to-head match, so it gave me a lot of confidence.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was a really great experience, and it's really spurred me on. So I'll definitely be doing more of the national tour next year.
It'll be good to see you out on that line and getting through those. Let's hope we see you in the finals. You might be on telly.
Oh my God. Yeah, I might have to do some work between now and then.
Yeah, well, Helen was talking about that in the last episode that we recorded, and she was saying how the stage is a completely different level of wow. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully we can get you there one day.
When you make it, Zara, you'll have to come back for another episode with us as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might be waiting a while.
Let's see if she survives this one first.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, she might just think, yeah, I'm not having anything to do with you again, lads.
I wouldn't blame her. But yeah, so obviously you've kind of hinted on it in that last question, and we all of us that have been experienced archers, but some of the newer archers might not realise how much of a mental game archery is compared to it being physical. So my question would be, how have you honed your mental focus and resilience to be able to perform at that level without it being completely overwhelming?
It's difficult. I remember the first year that I did a competition, and the first year I tried one senior competition last year, which was a 1440. And at 70, I thought, oh, actually, this isn't so bad. The face size changes at 50 meters and onto 3 arrows, and I was obviously not very experienced at the time, and it was a real mental challenge. So when you're going up and you've got a couple of misses and stuff like that, I was pretty much ready to throw the towel in, and I kept going, but it really put me off doing competitions. I really struggled through that. So I basically just went back to back to practice, just tried to work on, can I get groups at distances? I stopped shooting at 70 because I thought at the time it was a little bit beyond me, and it was better to build my confidence and get groups. So I dropped down the distances again, and worked my way back up, and then basically just worked a lot on technique. And then in the winter, I set out a plan where I was going to do one indoor competition per month, just to get the feel of doing competitions again. It didn't really, I wasn't too bothered really about scores and things like that. I just wanted to get the feel of competitions. So I set myself that goal, and that's what I did. And then this season, I just thought, I'm just going to book them. And the more that I go to, the less overwhelming it will be, because I'll start to get to know people, which I've done. I'll be able to shoot all the different rounds. And, with being the first competitions, everything was a PB. So it kind of takes that pressure off, really. What I would say is that I struggled very much coming from the winter to the outdoor season again. I struggled with basically being able to let go at the gold. So I worked with my coach on kind of how to get around that. And to be honest, I don't really know how I did it. I think in the end, I'd just gone to that many competitions that I relaxed more than anything.
Yeah, and so they have the experience of having been there, that relaxation, you were just able to start trusting your process again.
I think so. I think, that not being able to let go was because I was afraid of where the arrow was going to go. And so I started to do exercises where I would blank boss, and then I would put a target face up next to it. So I'd do one on the face, one off the face, one on, one off, and built it up a little bit like that. But yeah, it's that you're absolutely right. The mental element plays such a part. One of the things that I found at the start of the season was that I was kind of getting PBs and I was scoring well. I was like, oh, this is really good. But then all of a sudden I had scores for the rounds. So the next time I was doing those rounds, I had something to beat or something to compete against. And again, once I knew, halfway through a round, you'd accidentally see your score, and then your brain automatically goes to trying to calculate what do you need left to get to that point. So I spent a lot of time not looking at my scores, not trying to take that element out of it and seeing how I did. I'm one of those weird people that actually quite likes to score. When you're at a competition and two people score and two people pull your arrows, if there's four of you on target.
Oh, you like me? You enjoy being a scorer?
Yeah, because it keeps my mind occupied. I haven't got time to think about anything else other than trying to add up, which takes me a long time. So, yeah, I think it affects everybody in slightly different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you went through one of my major target panic. I think it was from where I was going from recurve to compound, and in fact, it was actually Zara that told me to suck it up and go on to compound, if I remember correctly, that conversation.
Yeah, well, because I think you enjoyed archery, and I think you were just on that verge of, if this doesn't get any better, then I'm going to pack it in. And I think that's a shame when you enjoy something. I think there's a bow type for everybody. You just maybe have to find the one that suits you best.
Yeah, definitely have improved a lot since going to compound. That's probably one of the best advice you gave me in my archery career, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I remember just your groups were brilliant. So you had the technique, you just needed the confidence.
Yeah, definitely. This is what I mean. I think it's another nod to how mental of a game it is, that, if you do let yourself get in your head, you will ruin basically your shooting if you can't figure out how to get out your head.
Yeah, 100%.
listening to your answer before, Zara, I really like the process you used, with the struggling at sort of thinking, not feeling the confidence to do longer distance. That way you're saying there about drop it down, just get used to shooting your process again, get used to feeling comfortable hitting the gold. Every time you take that shot close up, bang, you're getting in the gold. You're working on your form, you're improving your form all the time. And it's right, I've done my work, I'm getting used to competitions. Right, I'm going to go again now. I really like that way of approaching it as well.
Yeah, I see a lot of newer archers struggling where I don't know, again, we talked before about embarrassment. I don't know whether it is a sense of embarrassment, but they're pushing the target out and they're missing or they can't pull that group together. And there is an element of keep trying, but there's also an element of, come back a little bit, build up your confidence again, and then have another go. But I think a lot of people don't like to, well, they want to kind of be with the big boys, as it were. They want to have the targets out there, and it's sometimes counterproductive.
I remember just after, as soon as first lockdown had eased, and obviously hadn't done anything shooting related over that first lockdown. And the first thing I did was, right, 20 yards, 252 schemes, because I've been shooting a while, but I've never actually sat down and done them. So I thought, right, just going to ease myself back into shooting, get a couple of badges that I've not got before. So I just took them out and had a go at them. That was just a nice, easy way to build my confidence up after, in my case, half a year layoff. And yeah, that was a nice way to get, just to build my confidence up. And then as the year progressed, then it was, starting to up the distances. Then as I got more and more confident.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and I think people coming back from a break, it's a good idea. I think quite often, sometimes ego gets in the way of doing that. I think sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. So, your journey is obviously undoubtedly inspiring to a lot of people that would probably have seen you around at shoots. I know we get to meet a lot of people while we're at shoots. What advice would you give to any newcomers that are just starting their archery journey?
I think it's really easy to get frustrated very quickly because you don't see the improvements that you want to see. So I would say don't be afraid to approach more experienced archers in the club and ask for help. Nobody minds giving help, but people don't necessarily come over to you because it's kind of an unwritten rule, as it were, that they won't approach unless they're asked. So I think, go and ask for help, whether it's tuning your bow or can they just watch you and suggest some things that you could do to improve. Because I think most people are happy to do that as well. And that will make the biggest difference. You can't really teach yourself archery because you can't see yourself. So sometimes you think you're doing things that you're not doing, and having somebody point things out and then go away and work on it is a massive part. So that would be my biggest piece of advice: is ask for help, because that's how you'll improve.
Yeah, my coach actually, a couple of sessions ago, he was shooting, and he looked back at me and he was if to say, if you spot anything, please, let me know, kind of thing. And I sat there and thinking, this guy's been shooting for 30 odd years and he's asking me, a relatively new session coach, for any pointers. And it just clicked at that point that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing archery for, you cannot physically see yourself on what you're doing. Unless you've got some sort of camera system set up, you're just going off feel. And sometimes your feel doesn't translate to what it actually looks like. So, yeah, very good advice there. Thank you, Zara.
Sure. I mean, I've used the camera before, where you can do the video delay, but again, you need to know what you're looking for. So I think it's a good tool to use once somebody's pointed something out.
So, Zara, it's been a pleasure hearing about your archery journey from starting off to where you are now in the national tour. Obviously, we wish you all the best of luck for your future career. But before we wrap up, we will move on to our usual spot, where we talk about any upcoming competitions. So we'll start with Zara. Is there anything in the near future that probably around? Obviously, we're going to be going back into indoor season, so I'm assuming that we're going to be looking at indoor stuff. But is there anything particular that you've got your eye on that you think might benefit the archery community?
I mean, yeah, there's a fair bit going on for the indoor season. I think there's some good WA18 competitions coming up. I mean, in my area at Spinners Mill, there's New Century Bowman. That's actually a new one. So they're based in Macclesfield in Cheshire, and it's the first time that they're putting this shoot on. So I think it's around mid-November, but it's, you know, that's probably a good one to go into. And there's you know, there's the national indoors as well, which I'll be going to for the first time this year, which I'm excited about. But I definitely think that people should, you know, have a look at that for the future if you can get on it without Sport 80 crashing.
And it's a good shoot, that the national indoor.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. What are you guys booked into anything? Are you doing anything?
I've missed all the sort of big shoots, if you will. So I'm doing a couple of featers up at Penrith in October time, October November.
Okay.
You know me, Zara. I much prefer judging them than shooting them.
I was just thinking that. I don't think I've seen you at a competition. There's actually a really good series of shoots in West Yorkshire. It's like,
oh yeah, the Lord of the Rings series.
yes, yeah, which I think is really cool. Like, it's a really cool thing to do. So you can just enter one as a one-off, or you can enter the whole series. And I think it's one a month from November through to February or March. Each one is a slightly different round, but it's like, you know, Return of the King or Return of the Ring. I don't know, whatever. They've made them like archery names, which I'm really rubbish at because I can't remember them. But it's a really good one. So you can do all four, and then you can have like a league table across all four of them as well. So, and it's super cheap. It's £9 for one or £32 for all four. So they've got a Portsmouth, a Worcester, WA18, and then they've got a Vegas as the fourth one. So it covers all the indoor rounds as well, which is great. So they have series awards, they have single events awards, but I think this is a really cool idea. It'd be good to see that in other counties, I think. So that's my recommendation.
Brill. Nye, what about you, pal?
Oh, for me, one that I've got coming up is actually one that's very early January. I think it's something like the first or second Sunday of January. Eagle Bowman of Penrith, they've got their trilogy shoot coming up, which is morning. It's a Bray 2 and a Bray 1. So 30 arrows at 25 yards, 30 arrows at 20 yards, on a 60 face and a 40 face respectively. And in the afternoon it's a Worcester round. So you get a full 3 rounds of shooting, 120 arrows, but on rounds that you might not necessarily get to shoot as often. So that for me is always a good day out that I always like attending. So I've attended the last 2, and I'm quite happy with how I've done at them. And it's always really friendly and good to get the rust off early in the year as well.
I'm going to do a shameless plug here, because I know a lot of people have been asking me, where is Wigan and Orrell putting on a competition? I can confirm that we are putting on our Portsmouth. Hopefully we'll be UK record status. Not sure of the date yet, so I will put that on the show notes if I get the date before this goes live. But yeah, hopefully we can get that one, we can pull that one off. It's not going to be as big as it has been in previous years, because our venue that we usually used to shoot at is not accepting competitions currently, so we're having to do it at our own venue. But yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can put that one out, and we'll get everybody back.
We'll advertise it through our social media, the Unstrung Archery social media as well, won't we? To get news you shoot out.
Yep. So, on to our retrospective. So, this is our. I can't do anything on this one. I've not shot anything, so it's over to you guys on this one. So, is there anything that you've shot recently that stands out? Again, if it's something that you can promote, would be beneficial to people that are just starting or, seasoned archers themselves.
One of the standout ones for me actually was Colwyn Bay. They put on a weekend. It was a 720 and a head-to-head on both days. So it's not very often that you get head-to-head shoots and experience other than the national tour. And it was really well attended. It was the first time. It's the first time that they've done it. So you shot your qualification round in the morning, and then then you went into the head-to-heads. But one of the good things was that they didn't have a cut-off, so it meant that everybody had the experience of doing the head-to-head matches. It was my first time to do them, so even the head-to-head score sheets was interesting to learn. Well, how do these work? How do you fill them out? And I mean, I got through to the bronze medal matches on both days, which I was super happy with. But yeah, it was a really good weekend. It was a really good venue. It's, as I say, it's in Colwyn Bay, so it's, very accessible. There's a weird zoo or sea life centre nearby, so you can hear a seal shouting in the background, which just adds to the atmosphere. But I'd definitely recommend it because that for me was a really good experience to get in those head-to-head matches and also shoot 720s. So yeah, that's the one I'd plug for next year.
Brilliant. Nine?
Oh, first of all, by the sounds of it, that 720 was a really good day, and what Zara heard from the aquarium, I think that's the SeaWorld place giving them the seal of approval.
Oh my God.
Yeah, retrospective ones for myself have been I was for the first time in 22 years of shooting, I made it onto the Cumbria team for Clout. So shooting 180 yards, which was quite a nice surprise. But yeah, went and had a go, got my white tassel as well. So that was pretty That was one I was pretty happy with how I did there. That'd be me retrospective one, and then after that we had the metric clout. Went and had a go at flight archery. So in the national flight championships. So that's just basically seeing just how far I can send my arrows down the range. So which is it's something quite freeing about just being able to come back to 45 degrees, pull as far as you can, let your arrow go. I wasn't going to win anything because of the nature of the shoot. It was you got people there who have done all sorts of really fancy stuff to make the car. Sorry, I said cars there because I always describe it to people like trying to set a land speed record, see how far it's capable of sending an arrow. Some of the arrows are super light, things like that, and it's interesting just to see how far they can go. But I now know that I can shoot an arrow out of my bow 265 meters, which is fun as well. So again, both those clout and flight, if you get the chance, well worth experiencing as well to any archer. So yeah, there's something freeing about shooting longer distances.
Sounds super interesting, actually. I think that's probably one of the other things is that people don't know that there's other things you can shoot other than target. I mean, I love field. Clout sounds super interesting, and flight. I only heard about flight this year, but yeah, just being able to shoot an arrow as far as you can. Not very often you get to do that, to be honest.
That sounds like my kind of archery.
It's what I can do is I can give a few details to Neil for the for the program notes, so that we have information on how to do it. 'Cause obviously, with Clout, it's one that requires a session of Clout practice beforehand, so that you can get to have the feel for it. No, I don't know what you guys will probably have that at Wigan, I imagine, Neil, and yeah, we'll have it up. Kendall Bowman do one once a year or so. If you get to have a chance to actually practice it, it's well worth then you can enter all your competitions as well.
Yeah, I don't think Wigan's suitable for flight, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd be at it all the time. But yeah.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, either way, I can put some stuff in the program notes, or give Neil some stuff for the program notes for people who are wanting extra information about it as well.
Awesome. Right, so what concludes this episode? I just want to say a big thank you to Zara for joining us. Best of luck for all the future competitions, and no doubt we'll both see you at them as well anyway.
Yeah,
so
for sure. It's been a pleasure, guys.
I'm just thinking, Zara, have we actually met in person yet, or have we only talked? I think we've had email correspondence before.
We have. I mean,
I've
definitely seen you around because you're a hard character to miss now.
I can only apologise.
And if you don't see him, you at least see the penguin.
You hear me?
Yeah. No, I don't. We've never been on the same target, but we've been.
Yeah, we've been at the same shoots together. I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you see someone walking around in an orange shirt drinking Lucozade, that's me.
Okay, that's good to know. I can usually hear you before I can see you, if I'm being honest.
Most people can.
Yeah, well, I look forward to both at comps then.
Okay.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Before we sign off, we want to hear from you guys, our amazing listeners. If you have any questions, stories, or insights you'd like to share, we'd love to feature your voice on our next episode. Just hit that recording button on your phone or computer and send your voice clip to us. You could be part of the conversation. Plus, we are building a vibrant archery community on our Discord server. It's the perfect place to connect with fellow archers, share your experiences, and stay updated on all things Unstrung archery. You'll find the links to both our voice submission platform and our Discord server on our Linktree or in the episode description below. Your voice matters, and we can't wait to have you join the discussion. Until next time, keep those questions coming and stay safe in your archery journey.